Good afternoon, everybody. If I could just bring you to attention. A very warm welcome to you all. My name is Gwilym Gibbons. I'm the Chief Exec of the Crichton Trust. And I just want to welcome you to the historic Crichton Estate and our flagship here, Easterbrook Hall. And you're going to pick up some of the maritime references as I just welcome you. And a very warm welcome to Smart Green Shipping, who are delighted to host here, and not least because that your values, ambition, so beautifully align with those here at the Crichton Trust. When people ask us what we do, we talk about how we connect people, place, and the past to shape the future. And so using smart ways to reinvent the past and build on its historic knowledge and understanding to transform the future is so up our shipping channel. I couldn't think of any other way of saying that, and I did hesitate. The Crichton itself is built on the wealth generated from the trade winds in the 1800s through the East India Company and trade with China. And we're really proud of the legacy here of the 85 acres of parkland and the 22 listed buildings that we care for. And we share the commitment and see a huge opportunity in becoming a net zero enterprise, which obviously isn't without its challenges given the nature of our estate. And we're currently in the process of developing a really exciting partnership with our NHS neighbours and tenants and with SOSI and others looking at a net zero local energy scheme here, which will also become a proving ground and a playground for plug and play new forms of energy sources. And our intention is to move that really quickly and break ground early next year and start seeing the benefits of that by the end of next year. So we are really passionate about whole system change. And we want the south of Scotland to be the home to the solutions of the grand challenges that we all face. And develop solutions here in our rural environment that can scale and replicate to our cities and beyond. If we only look to the next horizon, you can only see roughly about 2.6 nautical miles. So if you just pause for a second, that's about 3 miles in car language. So we have to look further. We have to reach new horizons by looking to the stars. And we firmly believe that Smart Green Shipping is one of those stars, and we wish you safe passage and fair winds. And with that, I'll hand you over to Martin. Thanks very much. Welcome.
I think we're going to have a pun counter, aren't we? Di did one, she said, if you say too many puns about shipping, you'll make you walk the plank. Come on, that was not bad. Well, I just made that one up between there and here. So this is informal, formal, fun, feisty, funky, exciting. I can't think of any more superlatives, but you are here at a day when this is going to be, you'll remember this, you'll be telling people in the future where you were the day that Smart Green Shipping set sail. That's another. Somebody keep account, will you, so we can do. And sorry, I just should point out this dreadful picture first because it does look I'm on the front cover of a crime noir series, doesn't it? So maybe I can see it now, Valente, like Scandi killing or something. I'm sure. So if somebody can help me make that money out of that, that would be fantastic. Thank you. But a warm welcome to the south of Scotland. We put on some rain, which doesn't rain here often. We put it on to make you feel like you were on a ship. The kind of splashes. So, David helped me organise that. He knows a few people. So we wanted to make sure that you kind of felt at home. To you here in the room and to our virtual audience. Now, your attendance might be virtual, but your presence is real. We feel your presence here, and we want to see you taking part in what we're going to be doing from here on. So I'm not going to say too much. You'll all be delighted to hear, but there's something about, I think, Di Gilpin, who will definitely not like me saying this. I think she's the modern-day Jean Barrett. So Jean Barrett was a French biologist back in the 16th century, and she was the first female to circumnavigate the globe. But no one found out about it for hundreds of years later because she had to disguise as a man because the French Navy didn't allow women on ships. So I just thought I'd let that one. So maybe Di can help us understand how that's all changed in today. Hello, Russell. Maybe Di can help us explain how it feels now to be working in a predominantly male-orientated sector. So that would be interesting to hear from that. So you're going to hear from some brilliant speakers, ranging from investors, strategists, naval engineers, civil engineers. It's fantastic. You've got a collection of people. I'm calling this my Avengers Assemble for net zero, because every solution that we need is here. You have at your hands, at your disposal, and probably right next to you in the seat behind you, people who can help drive change in a big, exciting way. And there isn't a better place in Scotland to do that than the south of Scotland. Just throwing that out there as a concept, right? Because Scotland does start here. So we want to build this fair and green economy in the region, and working with businesses who are here, and you know who you are, and I'll probably point to you at some point later on, it's so exciting because we are getting relentless people coming to us saying, listen, I've got an idea that's going to save the planet, that's going to make my business, and I can do it in a really fair and inclusive way, and that is just music to our ears. And we'll hear from our chair, who's just joined us, later on about how we in Associate are shaping up to be able to do that for you at pace, with scale and ambition. Now, you'll notice behind me something rather special. I'll move to let you have a proper look. This is not the real size, it's the scaled down version. Di, what's the real size of that going to be?
1/12, that's
So it's going to be rather large, and you saw it first here in the south of Scotland. And I'm minded of the Kelpies when Stephen Lopp and Scottish Canal, they took the Kelpies around Scotland, then took them around the world. They ended up in New York and Beijing, and it was very poignant because it made people think, I'm going to go in Scotland and see what these look like. So when these are in situ, we invite you to come again to the second part of this party. So it's going to be really exciting. And you all signed up to being part of the Smart Green Shipping family. So thank you for that. So there's some people who couldn't make it here today. So before we go to a video message from the Minister, Mr. McKee, and from Suzanne Sosner from Scottish Enterprise, we just want to show you a tiny little video clip about Smart Green Shipping. I'll be posing some questions to you today as a little teaser to set you up for when you have your chance to ask questions to our esteemed panel. So one of them I'm throwing you out early on to start thinking about is, can we make the climate emergency our climate opportunity? So have a think about that as a kind of opening question, and we'll see what sort of questions can come to the panel. So like I say, our Minister couldn't be here today, but he has sent a message which we can now show. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and I regret that I'm not able to be with you in person today as Smart Green Shipping make their very exciting announcement. However, I am glad that I'm able to present virtually to share my congratulations and best wishes with everyone at Smart Green Shipping, along with our industry partners, on this very important day for them. As you are aware, Scotland has for a long time enjoyed significant shipbuilding capabilities which provide substantial contributions towards the Scottish and UK economies. The shipbuilding sector is one which can play a very significant role in our transition to net zero. It is one of our most innovative sectors with high ambitions for progressing in low carbon technologies. And the Scottish Government is fully committed to meeting our climate targets of reaching net zero by 2045, and decarbonising transport is a crucial part of the wider changes needed to achieve this. Last November's COP26 in Glasgow, where Scottish Enterprise and South of Scotland Enterprise collaborated with Smart Green Shipping, highlighted that innovative thinking would be key to achieving these aims. Our National Strategy for Economic Transformation contains bold and ambitious actions within the powers currently available to us, with innovation and technology forming an important part of that strategy. Smart Green Shipping's Fast Rig project is an excellent example of how innovation can help us progress in low carbon technologies and ensure Scotland is playing its part in these developments, creating more green jobs and business opportunities to take us on our mission zero for transport. To meet these ambitions, we need to ensure that we create opportunities for jobs in technical and engineering disciplines, in digital and artificial intelligence, and in a circular economy. We need companies with innovative business models to create these jobs. Digital transformation will be a major driver of our economic transformation. This requires Scotland to have a digital culture. Not only must we support our businesses to adopt digital technologies, we must improve our management and leadership practices along with our digital skills. Digitisation is an important driver of aggregate productivity, and it's fundamental to building an innovative and resilient economy, as well as supporting our ambitions to deliver net zero. And that's why I'm delighted to welcome today's announcement of Smart Green Shipping's investment in its Fast Rig project. This is a project that aims to reduce greenhouse gases and fuel costs by at least 20%, utilising high-tech sails, which will be manufactured and create jobs in Glasgow. And I'm pleased that Scottish Enterprise has been able to assist this innovative project with £1.8 million in funding, which has allowed the company to unlock £5 million in private investment. Smart Green Shipping is an ambitious and forward-looking company, and I look forward to seeing how this exciting project develops as it reaches its milestones. I wish everyone involved in the project the greatest success. Thank you.
I think we're going to hear now a very short video message from Suzanne, my colleague who works at Scottish Enterprise. She's my kind of counterpart. She's my partner in crime. It's a pity she couldn't be here, but this is her message to you. Thank you.
COP26 took place last November in Glasgow, Scotland, and helped attract many companies to think about setting up operations here in Scotland. I'm pleased to say that one of those businesses was Smart Green Shipping. Alongside our sister agency, South of Scotland Enterprise, and Scottish Government, Scottish Enterprise is delighted to continue working with the company. We will support Smart Green Shipping with £1.8 million to scale up its digital technologies from its new base in Dumfries. Smart Green Shipping will initially create 13 new roles, working on new high-tech sails that will save up to 20% of greenhouse gases. The company also plans to install its demonstration Fast Rig at Peel Port's Hunterston Park in collaboration with Clyde-based marine engineering specialist Malin. This is exciting for Scotland, with our very proud shipbuilding heritage, and we're delighted that Smart Green Shipping's project will be anchored in Scottish waters, helping to deliver a sustainable future for the global shipping sector.
So thank you. So both Suzanne and Mr. McKee said it. This is the time for change. This is the country that's going to do it. And these are one of the opportunities that's going to make it real. And back to my question about how do we make the climate emergency a climate opportunity was something we spoke about a lot at COP26. And I'm going to give you scenarios here. 200 world leaders, give or take 5, stroll into Glasgow and circle the wagons immediately about how difficult it is to tackle climate change. And then what happens is in subsequent circles, sectors all split into different camps, blaming the other sector because of lack of progress. Well, if only the financiers would be, a bit more forward-thinking. If only investors could see the big picture. Well, if only if regulation could get out of the way and let us get on with it. Well, if only if. But what it's done is it's just led to this phony war of combat, a combative environment. Now, what sensible nation would combat with itself about the biggest opportunity? Surely it would collaborate. So that's the second kind of prompt for us there. We should be more collaborative, less combative. Don't waste your time trying to figure out who to blame for climate change. Spend your valuable time trying to find who to partner with to solve it. And by the way, they're in this room, right next to you, right now. They're here. I'm looking at them all. I'm looking at Gary. I'm looking at people I know who are just ready to get stuck in. And what they need from you and what they need from us is this kind of ambition. Is we're going to be, we don't have all the answers, of course we don't, but we're going to be relentless until we get them. So that's the kind of couple of messages. Today, when I messaged Dave, was it just the other day, I said, you never guess what day it is when you're having your event. It's Earth Overshoot Day today. For those who don't know what that, I know Stuart's laughing because it's perfect timing. We meant it, obviously, we planned it strategically for this. Earth Overshoot Day, in a very unscientific way, is the day the Earth uses all of its resources. After today, we're into ecological debt. Now, your bank might let you go into debt for a while, but occasionally they'll go, right, we want that money back now. And then you'll get, punishments and penalties. Well, Mother Nature's punishing us with some of the fires we're seeing, with the climate. This has been the warmest weather. Scotland broke records just last week. No one can hide from the fact that this is a climate emergency. But we shouldn't hide from the challenge. We should run towards it. We should run towards it, and we should run towards it together, and we should be fearless, and we should be relentless, and we should be pursuing that opportunity. And again, when we hear from Di later, she's one of the people who will not take no for an answer. She'll take, well, you say no, but I'll come back to you later on that. So this Earth Overshoot Day, if every planet, if every country lived like we like living in Scotland, we'd need 3 planets. Now, I'm fairly scientifically safe for saying this, Anna, but the last time I checked, it was just the one. So we've got a serious problem of over-demand on supply. So with 2 options, David. We can either go back to living in caves and having a meagre, miserable life. Doesn't work for me. Or we innovate to a place that is full of prosperity for our planet, prosperity for our businesses, prosperity for our people. So I think that's the plan. So let's just agree that's the plan. And if that is the plan, and it is, we have only one option left now, and that's to be going towards it, not running away from it, not finding who to blame, finding who to partner, not being combative, being collaborative, and it's really very exciting. Just 250 days ago, along the road in Glasgow, hi, come on and grab a seat. World leaders, again, were debating and discussing the challenge and who was to blame. And it was COP26 because there had been 25 before, unsurprisingly. 24 of them failed because the conversations were couched in who is to blame, what do you have to give up in order to address climate change? And then it became this narrative of misery. And it didn't work. So Paris, fast forward to Paris now, it's maybe a coincidence, Di, I'm just looking at you here, is that the only COP that was successful was run by women. I'm just throwing it out there, just as an idea. And what happened is Christiana Figueres in Paris, maybe it was the romance of Paris, who knows, right? But in Paris, they said, we're not going to talk about who's to blame, and we're not going to fall out, and we're not going to fight about the challenges. We're going to be pioneering, and we're going to be relentless. And we're only going to talk about what do we gain from tackling climate change. And it worked. The first ever global agreement. But unfortunately, we should have scary music at this point that goes do-do-do. Donald Trump stepped into the scene, and it all went slightly backwards. Well, it went spectacularly backwards. And what happened is it created more animosity, more anger, more I don't believe in climate change, and more just nonsense, right? So hopefully that era of nonsense is one we'll look back at in the history books. I worry that it's not going. In fact, we heard yesterday he's going to be standing again. So that brings huge concerns for you, whether you know it or not, because that is going to take us back as a species like never before. So we need to be shown the rest of the world here in Scotland that our endeavours for the environment has an economic relevance. Otherwise, it seems like we'll get to the environment after we've done our economy. It's the same thing. Go after the same objectives. And again, this is where smart green shipping ticks every single box there. So we want to be mobilising around hope, not paralysed by fear. We want to be optimistic, not outraged. And we want to be collaborative, not combative. So these are kind of our strap lines for smart green shipping. It's definitely the strap lines for South of Scotland Enterprise. We're an economic agency that's been created to help identify and support businesses who know what we know. And I'll tell you what we know. We know that doing good is good for business. It's not rocket science. It is the right way to go. And if you focus your business on that kind of approach, our organisation and our partner organisations will rally around you all day long to see what we can do to help you mobilise. And today is an example of that. So thank you, Di, for choosing to locate in the south of Scotland. You're very welcome here. And we'd like to encourage lots of other pioneers and entrepreneurs like you to come here, because this is going to be the region of huge ambition. And again, thank you to Gwilym for putting us on in such a splendid environment. So without further delay, I think now, I'm just looking at my diary, we are going to hear from our first speaker. Now, I like to kind of wing it when I'm talking. I'm sure you've noticed that. And spoiler alert, I'm not a professional public speaker. I'm just an ordinary person working in an extraordinary world, looking at the challenges but not being afraid of them. I get excited by them. I know it's weird. I get excited by the bigger the change. So actually, it's maybe my mentality of I don't view climate change as the cliff edge. I view it as a mountain. But we like climbing mountains, don't we? There's a spirit of endeavour. The higher the mountain, the more excited you get because you can plan it, base camps, Sherpas. Cliff edge, no one's going to move. So let's stop talking about climate change at the cliff edge. As of today, the new, we'll call it the Crichton Pact, Gwilym Shelby. No more cliff edge scenarios, please, because that is not going to interest people like Rob and investors. It's going to make people think, well, if you're in a state of emergency, give us a shout when you have a plan and we'll come and get involved. Well, we have a plan, Rob, and it's a very exciting plan, and there's no plans better than this one. So Graham Lester, and I will have to go to this because the people that we have speaking today have such bios of great gravity that I do not want to miss a word, but I'm just going to quickly read it out now. Graham Lester, most of you will know, is Director of International Futures Forum. It was an IFF event, the Second Enlightenment, wasn't it? That's talk about setting the scene there for it, where Graham first met Di Gilpin and SGS journey began. So thank you, Graham. Find us more dice, please. Thank you. So IFF's originally charged with the mission to enable people and organisations to flourish in powerful times. What you're going to see from Graham specifically is something that he's created is this 3 horizons model of social change to encourage a longer-term perspective, and Graham's a key strategic advisor to sustain smart green shipping. Graham's got a strong interest in governance, innovation and education, and previously worked with the OECD, the World Bank. You can see why I wanted to read these things out. It's very impressive, aren't they? And other agencies on the themes of governance. And he's an author of numerous books. And I kept the best one to the very end, is that you are also a freelance professional cellist, including with the BBC Orchestra. That is pretty impressive. So you should have brought it today and we could have had a duet. There's a piano outside. Piano outside. Does anyone play piano? Karen, I think you can play piano, but we'll come to that later. So without further delay, I'd like to invite Graham to come up and speak to us about his 3 horizons model. Graham, over to you.
Thanks very much, Martin, and that kind introduction, which the more times I hear it, the more out of date it sounds. But I did actually do all of that stuff in several lifetimes ago. I set up the International Futures Forum 20 plus years ago, the IFF, with a mission to develop the capacity, as Martin says, for taking effective and responsible action in powerful times in a complex world. And we now sit at the heart of an international network of people who are operating in that way, making a difference in the face of all that stands in the way of making a difference. Di is one of those people, and there are plenty more Dis. As Martin says, a lot of them are in this room. We all rise to the challenge of making a difference in the face of all that stands in the way of making a difference in this context, the current powerful times. And for us, that means taking action that's forward-looking, that is not just about fixing the old system, but moving our failing systems towards new patterns of viability that are fit for the future in this changing world. And we illustrate that approach with the 3 Horizons framework that Martin's mentioned. There it is. And that shows a dominant first horizon pattern. That's the red line. That's beginning to lose effectiveness as the world changes. So it fades away into the background, not as reliable and dominant as it used to be. And there's a visionary third horizon pattern. That's the one that starts in the bottom left, that green line, which is growing from the inspirational practice in the present towards a future pattern that we aspire to. So the third horizon vision. And there's a wave of innovation in the transition zone between those two, where that's the second horizon, the blue line, where there's lots of energetic exploration of new ideas and new opportunities. And the innovations in that transition space can help to address the failings of that first horizon system and keep it going to avoid it from collapsing. And we call that sustaining innovation, sustaining the old pattern. Or they can be building the building blocks of the new system, the new third horizon vision. And we call that transformative innovation. And if we're going to do system transition, if we're going to navigate from a failing first horizon system to a flourishing third, then we're going to have to do both of those things. We need to pay attention to the existing system because we rely on it. But if that's all we do, it won't be enough. We need to be building the next system at the same time. We talk about being hospice workers for the dying culture and midwives for the new. And that, for me, is the beauty of the smart green shipping proposition, because it's a perfect example, for me, of an intentional system transition in a big, global, challenging, critically important sector. So the fast rig wind sails that the Minister was talking about, and we have a mock-up behind me here, those can be retrofitted onto existing vessels, and they will make an immediate and a significant contribution to reducing energy costs and carbon emissions. That's sustaining innovation. And by the way, there's a large market for that, obviously, and that market is only going to grow as the climate crisis deepens, as global instability spreads, and as energy cost volatility escalates. So we can expect to see that market growing. At the same time, these wing sails are simply the first step, the first building block on a journey towards a third horizon vision. And that vision is of a commercially viable, completely fuel-less, autonomous, zero-emissions fleet powered by wind and possibly by hydrogen taken from the seawater, manufactured to a modular design so it's fully recyclable and built into a circular economy. That is transformative innovation. Now, what's at stake here, what we're working towards, is a new pattern, therefore, for global shipping, a transformation of the shipping system itself in terms of energy, ownership, finance, infrastructure, you name it. It's a wholesale transition to a new system. And since it takes a system to change a system, we need to draw on many different disciplines for this work. So we'll need to look at renewable technologies. We'll need to look at data analysis and processing. We'll need to look at financial innovations and new financial instruments, and of course, marine engineering and shipbuilding. So where might we find all these things together? Yes, here in Scotland, where we also find a proud tradition of engineering, and as a number of people have already pointed out, a deep resonance in the culture for a mission that is about reinventing shipbuilding for the 21st century. For me, this is about restoring pride and purpose. It's not just about shipping. For me, again, the smart green shipping proposition is a standout example of effective and responsible action in response to powerful times, our founding mission. It's a living embodiment of the prompts that we offer to others who are seeking to do this kind of transformative work, and some of them have just appeared on the screen there as if by magic. So there's a strong sense of direction here and vision to address the urgency of climate change and other interconnected crises. There's a commitment and an integrity in this work, not just to take the short-term gains from the existing market for sustaining innovation, but to make a new market for a new system. And there's a breadth of perspective and understanding, a spirit of wide collaboration and relationship needed to shift a centuries-old industrial pattern of behaviour in the shipping system. When I first got to know Diane a number of years ago, she told me about her Formula One experience. And she said, you cannot win the race unless you have a car on the grid. And you can only get to stay in the race if you keep learning. If you're always engaged with new people, new ideas, new opportunities, new technology, learning faster than the others, putting those new ideas into practice through experiment and action. And that real learning through practice is very rare, in my experience, especially at a system level, where the whole system is learning. And that is the true disruptor here. So I am delighted just like everybody else in this room, I'm sure, to see Scotland today entering that race to regenerate global shipping. Something remarkable is happening here. Now, I've been involved in the journey for just a few years. Diane and others have been working at this for much longer than that. Something remarkable is happening here. This is a great event, as Martin said right at the start. This is a powerful story of hope at a time when we need them. This is good work. This is meaningful work. This is inspiring work, and it feeds the heart. Certainly feeds my heart. All of us here, and anyone engaging online, we can all play our part in this unfolding story, and as Martin said at the start, we will be proud to do so. So let's spread the word, get behind the effort, and show how we and Scotland can rise to the occasion. Because the prize is immense, and the alternative unconscionable. Thank you.
Very powerful, that, isn't it? You can see why we picked the speakers that we have, and they actually picked themselves because this is such an exciting venture. Incidentally, about spreading the word, we're going to try and move that later on, so if you want to get your selfies with the fast rig, make your donation charity to Gwillim's going to find a charity for the Crichton, can't we? And we can donate your selfies, contributions. Bear with me 1 second, please, till I put this back on. Okie doke. So, I stand between you and the hero of the hour, our net zero hero, Di, who's cringing as we speak. And I'm going to even point out you've got your nails done especially for it. Oh, sorry, I just did, didn't I? Okay. So, I'm going to invite Di to come up. But what excites me is that, and I'm old, yes, you can tell, can't you? I've been kicking the tyres on sustainability and climate change for way too long, and I just get exhausted with it. And I want to be, when I'm retired, totally exhausted because we've tried absolutely everything, and it's only by working with people like Di and my colleagues from Carbon Capture and David and Teresa and some of the people in this room, Steve and Lindsay from Reblade, you energise me to continue to do this work. So thank you all, but for now, Di Gilpin. Thank you.
Holy moly. I've got a ton of paper because I didn't know I was going to have to follow such amazing speakers. I was going to start by talking about Earth Overshoot Day, but Martin took that one. So I just want to say thank you for all of you for turning out today. I want to start by thinking about the winds of change. And what we've been working on for the last 10 years has been truly collaborative, as you all know. But it's been the power of possibility that's really, really important. And that's part of what we want to think about with Earth Overshoot Day. So when we look at the world, we see that energy is all around us. And we are so used to the idea that someone will dig fossil fuels out of the ground, transport them around the world, sell them as a commodity, and most of us simply cannot envision any other way. I think future generations are going to look at us and think, you were a bit bizarre, because if we look out to ocean, all we see is energy and power, and what we see is the power of potential, the power of possibility, the potential to transform from this extractive, commodity-based economy to a truly regenerative one, which is rooted in a just transition. People sometimes think, I think, that we are borderline crazy. In fact, all of you are borderline crazy for even being here today. But we all know and we all feel that we are experiencing a planetary emergency, a real challenge. So when we set out on this pioneering journey, we realised it was an adventure, and it feels very much like when we prepare for an epic yacht race. I first met Dumfries Yacht Design, who are our naval architects on this project, when we both worked on the BT Global Challenge. And that's the world's toughest yacht race. Dumfries designed rugged, robust yachts specifically for amateur crews to sail around the world the wrong way, into prevailing winds and currents. And the Dumfries yachts aggregated more than 1.3 million miles, and over 300,000 of them were in the Southern Ocean, the harshest environment on the planet. There were no major reliability issues, and there were no major problems. So we understand the hostility of the sea, and we design for it. We design to first principles. We ask, what's the problem? Then we solve those problems with elegantly simple solutions. When we went to them as B9 Shipping back in 2009, to Dumfries, we said, can you design us a renewable powered ship? And they came up with a really, really cool solution. We took it to investors in industry, and they said, well, we don't need that. We've got bunker fuel and it's really cheap. Giving up isn't an option. We are facing an emergency, and we're involved in the greatest race we have ever been involved in. And we all need a racing mindset now. And so we expanded our team. Dumfries and I got involved with Drax, who are cargo owners of enormous power, and they needed green shipping logistics. So what they were able to provide for our coalition was the demand pull. Then Classification Society, LR, got involved because they recognised the urgency, and they started to join in and collaborate. So Drax then brought along to the party their ship owners and operators, and in our growing collaboration we met crews, we met captains, we visited ships, we took our tape measure and we measured things and we asked questions. And with all of that group of people, we designed collaborative solutions with Drax's help, with their ship owners' help. And we set about systematically addressing those solutions, the practical issues, the safety. Of course we understand we need to do safety, but there's other things, visibility, green water, crew training, and cost. We know that cost is really important. So we have designed these issues, we have looked at them, and we've designed both technically and economically creative solutions. This is about a system. And so we have built on this whole core project to build a wider coalition of the willing. And we've included marine engineers, strategists, economists, insurers, lawyers, financiers. We've engaged across the entire shipping ecosystem to examine and explore and challenge each of the established interconnections to see whether we could change them. So what we've established is a world-class team of change agents, and you're all part of that now. So this is how we affect transformative innovation. And we need to do that at a system scale. So here's a model that I use. In the middle, we've got power. We need to have power to think about these things, but we want to be working across the power, the digitalisation, as Graham said, on the materials, the manufacturing and the financial instruments, to create new and imaginative ways of addressing this crisis, to create a just transition, and we can only do that within the outer ring of relationships and collaboration. We sometimes have to sit down with people we may not naturally want to sit down with, but we have to figure out how we do that. And we do that through human relationships, and that's what's really, really important to us. So we've spent a lot of time preparing, but we have prepared for long enough. So it's time for us to start our journey together. A ship is safe in port, but it's not what ships are for. The time for more activism, for more expensive reports and research is behind us. At some point you have to commit, you have to take action. And like the pioneers before us, we don't know quite what we'll face. We don't know what the prevailing conditions will be. What we do know is we have a great team, adaptable, agile, creative, and totally committed. And so I am thrilled and quite moved, and holding it together pretty well, I think, to announce that Smart Green Shipping is setting sail today. As Graham has said, our destination is 100% renewable, regenerative shipping. But to start this epic journey, we're developing our fast rigs. They're retrofittable, retractable, intelligent, recyclable wing sails. And we want to systematically and methodically build out from our Innovate UK feasibility study, which showed in the lab that on a Panamax ship operating 4 dracs on its usual route at its normal speed, we could save at least 20% fuel and greenhouse gas emissions. We need to build out on our Tradewind app that quantifies the value of the wind on any ship, on any route, because that underpins our commercial model. Before we put fast rigs on a ship, we must be sure that it is safe. We need to test it in a controlled environment before we put to sea. So that begins with installing our first fast rig, a test fast rig, at Hunterston Park on the Clyde by next February. So the industry can understand it, work with us, and we can learn from doing together. Fast rigs are recyclable, making best use of scarce resources, building new circular economy models, and learning from developing fast rigs, we can start to take that learning into our new build systems. They're retractable, autonomous and intelligent. They know when to get out of the way. That enhances the safety of the system. It improves the performance, which is absolutely critical in 21st century just-in-time logistics system, and why people like Drax want this thing to deliver for them. It optimises, most importantly, it optimises fuel and greenhouse gas emission savings. And of course, they're retrofittable, because the best use of an existing ship is to start driving emissions out of it now. The Department for Transport estimates that up to 40,000 ships could be suitable for wind. So we can make a huge and immediate difference in the very near term. This is an emergency response. With Scotland, a mighty maritime nation behind us, with £5 million backing from government, industry and investors, we've all committed to this ambitious 3-year development programme. The third horizon is in sight. We know where we're going, and every single one of you is part of this epic journey. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you all who have done amazing, amazing things to support us. Thank you so much. Stay on board. There is much, much more to come, both today and over the next 3 years, as we develop and build out this ambitious, collaborative vision to accelerate and support global shipping's green transition. We are the winds of change. Thank you.
I know what you're all thinking. When are we getting our white shirt? Because if you're all part of the crew, I don't know about you, but I want one of those shirts.
We're going to do merch.
We're going to do that. Wow, fantastic. I'm going to keep the pace up here because I do speak too much, but it's just, you can't help it, can you? Yeah, I'm here in a room full of people who just want to do bold, creative stuff, so you will allow me getting a bit giddy with excitement. I'm looking at colleagues from Reblade. When Di was talking about repurposing and Reblades, but you're not sitting thinking, we want to be part of that. Okay, we'll maybe join the dots later on. So it's very, very exciting. So I'm just going to look at my notes that have been prepared for me. So next we're going to hear from another part of the ecosystem. We're going to hear from Chris Dunn. Again, a very, very long biog, but I think I might just, for speed, just cut to the point, because Chris is nodding. I'm getting a nod of approval. Chris is just brilliant. How about that? Chris is brilliant. Will we go with that, Chris? So Chris is a naval architect from Malin Group, and there's a picture of him there. You're now going to see the man in person. So Chris, over to you. Come and tell us what you're doing.
Thanks very much, Martin. This is a tough gig following those two, isn't it, really? And I'm not going to play the pun game because I don't trust myself to go off-piste with my script. As an engineer, I'll stick to the script. We do a lot of talking... Hold up. It's falling at the first. Chris Dunn, Naval Architect, Malin Group in Glasgow. Truly honoured to be part of this milestone event and of the wider FastRig team. And it's a pleasure to be asked to address you today. For those of you who haven't heard of us, don't know who Malin are, we're based up in Glasgow where we've been supporting the maritime industry for the last 125 years plus. We lived through the glory days of the Clyde that we've heard around and managed to come out of the other side intact. After many iterations, we've now evolved into a collection of specialist engineering companies headquartered in the South Rotunda on the banks of the Clyde. There's not much recognisable about that picture from 86 years ago, but in the bottom right corner you can see just about the South Rotunda. Like us, it stood the test of time, and it's from there that we will set about changing the world with FastCrete. A very quick overview of our business and the companies in our group. Sorry, this will be like a bit of a party political broadcast, not inspirational like the rest, but together cover the full spectrum of technical service and manufacturing offerings. So we see ourselves as a good partner for Smart Green Shipping. Malin New Build and Malin Equipment on the left are fabrication businesses. New Build typically builds products to plan, and Equipment has a technical front end, delivers full design and build solutions. JTSW, specialist welding team. I don't pretend to know what they do, but from the outside, they seems to be able to join anything to anything else using a whole range of technologies. And to date, I believe they have graduated more than 30,000 welders through their training school. So they know what they're doing there. On the right side, we have Malin Abram, who are heavy lift specialists. Most of our engineers reside here, and they spend their days working out how to move enormous or highly complex things all around the globe. Malin Augustia is a joint venture with our Italian friends, unsurprisingly called Augustia. And this is the home of CDR1. CDO1, our heavy lift barge. Our Marine Technology Park is the final one. It'll take me an hour at least to get through everything that's going on there, so I'll save that delight for another day. But needless to say, we have an awful lot of stuff going on based from the South Rotunda. I mentioned fabrication. We now operate what we believe is one of the largest marine fabrication facilities in Scotland, 200,000 square feet of build space in Renfrew, just next to Glasgow Airport, so nicely placed. And with a production team from Malin New Build, the design team from Malin Equipment, and the engineering team from Malin Abram all working together, we're able to tick all the boxes for a truly turnkey service covering every stage of delivery, from concept, design to installation and commissioning. Why am I telling you this? Well, I'll explain. We're an enthusiastic and ambitious company, and not just for business growth, though, but as an engineering missionary for change. It doesn't take a climate scientist to recognize that our collective behaviors over the last few decades have resulted in an enormous mess that we need to address right now. I was going to mention also Earth Overshoot Day, but I probably won't bother, given that we know, but it is really quite distressing that we have 5 months to go of this year and we're already in overdraft. We're using resources far faster than anything can populate, and it's accelerating from now. So the time for change is right here. As of midnight tonight, we are in overdraft for the year. Distressing. We don't yet know how we're going to fix it, but we do know that it's going to take a lot of engineers and a whole pile of good ideas, and we're committed to being at the front of that charge. As a good missionary, we try and set an example wherever we possibly can and spend a lot of time trying to get folk to join our gang. We do a lot of talking about it, ethical engineering, sustainable behaviours, all that good stuff, but we also need to take action, and we've demonstrated that we can do that with our Clyde Dock 01 semi-submersible barge that I mentioned earlier. We bought a standard barge and recently converted her into one of the largest semi-sub barges in Europe. And from her home on the Clyde, she now offers a real step change in domestic capability as we look for innovative ways to support the growing offshore renewable sector in the UK. And play our part in reducing the cost of renewable energy. It's a baby step, but it's a positive one. And she's already making a difference. That was her first job last week. Take a picture there, 6,000 tonne of offshore wind substation being deployed in Belgium. So hopefully we'll see a lot more like that in the UK. But this is an enormous challenge that we're facing, and to address this, we have to think bigger than just barges. We all know that this will require teamwork and collaboration on an unprecedented scale. We've heard about that already. We all know this, and we need to surround ourselves with other big thinkers and a few dreamers as well. I have died down in the big thinker camp rather than the dreamer camp, but I'm sure there's a bit of that as well, in case you're wondering. And that's what we did during COP Fortnight. We had an incredible 2 weeks at the South Rotunda, hosting over 30 marine sustainability events with global participation as part of our Spotlight series, and a lot of you were there, I see. And this has given us a really solid platform to build on, and people are listening, which is great. Di was right in the middle of most of it, as you would expect. We talk a lot about forces of nature, and yeah, that's one for you. And here we are 8 months later helping launch this truly transformational project. I know it's taken an incredible amount of energy, work and dedication to get this far. 13 years, is that right? 13 years. Which really does surprise me because it seems like an absolute no-brainer. Why wouldn't we try and use all the clean, free energy that's at our disposal and simultaneously reduce our reliance on damaging fossil fuels? The engineer in me really can't understand why we aren't falling over ourselves to push these fantastic ideas on. But that's not yet the case. Although today is a massive step in the right direction, and not before time, and we really are chuffed to bits to be part of this fast rig delivery team. And what's not to love? Transformational innovation, free energy, zero carbon, and some pretty clever marine engineering that will surely give our technical team a really good workout. And then we get to build it, a Clyde-built prototype fabricated in Renfrew by the Mowan team, and an opportunity to show off all of those specialist skills I mentioned. I'm sure I'm not alone in believing that Clyde-built still stands for something. To me, it means rugged, reliable, and robust, well-engineered and built to last, and that will be our objective. And the fast rig prototype will demonstrate that when we move it to its test site. The perfect location, as Di said, on the old 7 megawatt turbine foundation at Hunterston. For sure, that is a blowy site. I've been there many, many times. And it will prove ideal conditions for some seriously robust testing. And when we've proven that Fast Rig can take all that the North Atlantic winds can throw at it, we will get onto the real job of putting it to sea and decarbonising the global fleet. And that's just the beginning. It says question. Oh no, it doesn't say questions. It did say questions on there. I don't want any questions. I've done enough. I'll let them answer the questions. That's it. Thanks for being.
A couple more, just little presentations or chats to come, but I think we have a little movie from Drax to show now. It's about the kind of demand pool, so this will be interesting.
At Drax, our purpose is to enable a zero-carbon, lower-cost energy future. Over the past decade, we have reduced carbon emissions from power generation by over 95% by using sustainably sourced biomass to generate renewable power for millions of homes and businesses. Our ambition is to go even further in the years ahead to become carbon negative by 2030. Across our global supply chain, we are continuously reviewing our operations and deploying innovative technologies to cut our emissions even further. Innovation and collaboration will be key to tackling climate change. Reducing emissions from global shipping will be one of the key challenges of the energy transition. Drax has been a long-term partner of smart green shipping because we're excited by their pioneering wind-assisted sail technologies and the impact these technologies could have on our supply chain. We look forward to working with smart green shipping to harness the power of nature to deliver a green global supply chain.
So that was Will Gardner, CEO of Drax. Incidentally, see when you're watching this and you're watching this event and you're hearing it all, think to yourself, you want to be up here next? Do you want to come to South of Scotland Enterprise and Scottish Enterprise and Highland Island? Do you got an idea that you think is going to be as exciting as this? We do want to hear from you. Just thought I'd throw that one out there for you, so catch me during the break, which, by the way, we're not having, because we're just going to keep working. So what I'd like to do now is that I'm going to change the format a bit. I'm going to ask Rob Payland, to come and join us, and you can come up that way. I think the way is, Rob and I are going to sit and have a chat and talk a bit about what Rob does and how he got involved in this. But again, Rob has an extremely impressive, I don't know where to pick out the fact, the Formula One, the Tesla, the aerodynamicist. Should I read it all out, Rob, or is it just very, it's all brilliant stuff again, isn't it? Fantastic.
Going quickly or efficiently with wind.
There you go. So I think I'll come and join you now in the sofas. And we have wipes. See, David, we're taking care of everything here.
Keep this with me.
So, Rob, we've all started to see a bit of dye. We're getting that dye phenomenon now. So what was it about Smart Green Shipping that made you as an investor want to get involved?
I think we've heard very eloquently from a lot of people on the key points already. So there isn't that much I would add. I would just say it's become very apparent in the last few years that some of our systems and infrastructure just isn't appropriate for a sustainable future. We've seen with COVID, climate crisis, the invasion of Ukraine, that we're very vulnerable to a whole load of things going horribly wrong. And I think the shipping industry knows that they need to change, and they're asking themselves, well, what do we burn instead of what we're currently burning? If we can't burn oil, we should burn something else. And I think by asking themselves the question in that way, they limit the answers. And it leads to these questions if we've got decades of research in new fuels and building out new infrastructure, how do we make all of this make financial sense? It's going to cost millions and millions. But we have the infrastructures right there, and the price of wind hasn't changed in billions of years. So we have a very easy solution available right now. We can bolt this onto just about every ship that can take it, different sizes maybe. But it's something that we should be doing right now while we continue to do all the kind of clever boffin stuff in the back rooms. Why not just do this? It makes no sense to find new ways of storing large amounts of energy on a ship and then kind of sail blindly past or blindly through winds and natural, free, completely guilt-free energy being thrown at us by the environment day in, day out. So if you look at it with an open mind, it's insane not to do this, as Chris pointed out.
So Di said we were all a bit crazy for wanting to be part of this, so I'm not suggesting you're crazy in any way, of course, but are you the outlier in the investors' world? Because if it's taken Di this long, and I think Chris said no-brainer, so sometimes it feels to the layperson that the environment is the best opportunity we have for driving new business, yet it gets kicked into well, we've got an economy to think about, but surely it's the same thing. And do you see other investors like you?
I see it as investing in a future for everybody, and I can't think of a better thing to invest in than making a livable world for everybody that's in it. There's nothing better you can spend money on than having a livable world. I think I just fall into a very fortunate group where past experiences, basically working at Tesla, what started off as following a crazy billionaire and his plan for world domination, worked out quite well. And I think I was never expecting that to work out. We always thought it was a crazy idea that was going to end in tears, but it worked out very well, and it would be irresponsible not to use that good fortune to continue the work that we started. He's gone off the rails a bit recently, but No, not yet. But yeah, we have a lot of work still to do, and it just provides kind of a springboard, and the success breeds more success, enables us to do things that we should have been doing already, but it just lets us catch up a bit.
Do you feel, and this is a kind of loaded question, do you feel there's enough dies out there? Do you feel there's enough pipeline opportunities coming to
We have a room of them here, I think. everybody can be involved, everybody should be involved. It's our future, it's our world that we want to continue living in. Everybody should, I think, want to get involved. There's no hiding from it, and everybody's welcome. We're in this together.
I think that's encouraging to know, and I hope Willem's going to be offering you office space here so you can come here and bring all of your investor colleagues, and we'll introduce you to some fantastic businesses sitting very near this row, he says, yeah. Looking over there and over there at my colleagues from carbon capture and so on. COP26, Mark Carney was a former governor of the Bank of England, and he brought a group called GFANZ. Sounds like Avengers Assemble, doesn't it? So the Glasgow Finance Alliance for Net Zero, and I think the headline figure was 138 trillion worth of investment on the eye for pipeline projects, and yet they don't see what's right in front of them. So how do we bridge the gap between the rhetoric and the reality of these investments?
I think by being very clear about what it is we're trying to achieve and how much more achievable it is than is often framed. Like I say, it's just the way the question is asked. We need decarbonisation, we need complete transformation of the whole industry. It's like, the impression is that that is such an enormous mountain to climb that we're just going to sort of take small steps towards it, and it's going to be a many decades or centuries long path, and that's not true. Sails work. We used to travel the oceans with them all the time, and it worked just fine. We kind of got a little bit lazy with fossil fuels, and during that time, we've learned so much more about how to harness the wind, whether it's aeroplanes, wind turbines, racing cars. We have a much greater skill at handling the wind now. So kind of sails 2.0 are going to be much better than the past. And as we talked about earlier, it's probably sails 15,000.0 because we've been working at them for quite some time, but we're good at it now. Why wouldn't we use it?
So encouraging to hear that. One sort of final question before, because we'll have more time. You'll have your chance for the Q&A, and I really hope you show us on a good basis the south of Scotland. We need really good questions, so no pressure, and I know where you live. Bill, just checking. So this is a kind of loaded question. So how brilliant is Scotland, and how much, on a scale of outstanding to sensational, I'm joking aside, I'm not really.
Oh yeah, it's off that scale. We need another one.
Do you see something special in Scotland that you feel could be so investable? Because we know we have the brilliant policy, we have the strategy, we have the passion, we have the creativity. We just need those pipeline projects. Do you see something about Scotland that excites you?
Agency, which is just the get up and go to go and do it. We kind of know what we need to do. Yes, it's not easy, but there is an individual agency, self-empowerment, and just a hunger to get stuck in that is really precious at the moment because, as we've said, with all the previous COP meetings, we've sat and flapped lips about this for decades now, and it's always been a thing we'll get round to. But there is a get up and go and let's just do it that I see in Scotland, and I think it can lead the way. It's going to be better to just show people how to do it than it is to try and talk them into it, because that hasn't worked. So let's just get on with it, show that it works, and have them follow us later.
I think that should be the new lyrics to Flower of Scotland, don't you? So listen, if you just thank Rob for a minute, and we'll have a chance to ask him a question yourself. So thank you so much, Rob. Thank you for that. I'd like to introduce and welcome Professor Russell Griggs. I'm going to read Professor Griggs's. No, I'm not. I've just been told I'm not. I was going to read his impressive CV. We could be here for several hours, but thankfully we've got whiskey later on. But you could be here for a long time. Professor Russell Griggs has been one of Scotland's most protagonists for ambition and hope, working behind the scenes sometimes in government departments, which isn't normally full of activist, fun things, and just pushing an agenda, cajoling people into thinking bigger, acting faster, being braver, being bolder. And he created, through his hard work, the South of Scotland enterprise that I am so proud to work for, because I get to do stuff And people who know me, have known me for a long time, know that I've been frustrated with talk. I just want to get on and get stuff done. And working for Professor Griggs and South of Scotland Enterprise, I can't tell you how delighted I am. So, Professor Griggs, if you wouldn't mind coming up and speaking to us for a few minutes, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, thank you. As I was driving across here today, I thought, isn't this the most wonderful place to come and talk about this new adventure? Because if you think about this, in the 18th and 19th century, the innovators and the traders of the southwest of Scotland, using the sails on the ships to go back and forward to the Far East to create the wealth and the income that built this building. And therefore there is no, in my word, anywhere else in Scotland, let alone the UK, to launch this today, because it's just a re-emphasis of everything that this part of the world has done for the last 200 or 300 years. And sails are what brought us all the trading and all the different types of products that we did to that put it into. And when Elizabeth Crichton built this back in the, whenever it was, Willem, the 1800s, it's just amazing to think that all that came from a sail. And that is where it came from. It came from the sail on the ship. Now, Martin's asked me to talk a bit about Sosie, and he's given me a long list of things to speak about, which I probably won't. But what I'd just like to say is a number of things. The South of Scotland Enterprise was set up because in the last 6 years, the people of Scotland realised that the South of Scotland is different. We're a very particular part of Scotland. We're made up of tiny little communities, and I'll come back to one of them in a little while. We only have 4 places of more than 10,000 people. So we are a community of innovators, because each little community has to create itself, it has to create the energy, it has to create the innovation that it wants to do, and without that, we won't be a community. So they realised at last, after 55 years, that perhaps we deserved our own enterprise agency. And it's great fun now working for this, so I get to do all the things I wanted to do for a long time, which in my time of life is really quite good fun. But in terms of net zero, that's been at the heart of what we wanted to do from the beginning, is we have all sorts of stuff going on the side, which I'll talk about it. But if you look at it in agriculture, we're probably now ahead of a lot of parts of the rest of the world now in terms of how we've been looking after our soil and how we've been looking after our animals for a long time. In terms of our textile businesses, we are just so far ahead of the rest of the world. And I had a gentleman round, one of our big leading, which is part of Chanel recently, and he just couldn't believe where we are. And it's just that innovation that comes out of it. Excuse me. Yes, of course, we're part of the new government strategy, and Kate Forbes and I have the original little conversation about whether we had our strategy before hers or whether we had it afterwards, but that doesn't really matter. We are where we want to be, which is about taking our country forward, and in our part of the world, taking the south of Scotland forward. And that's what we want to do, and that's why we're so delighted to have you here today and why you'll be here. But as I say, it's the natural place for you to be. We've also got other people in the room who are all part of this cluster of innovative companies that we want to create. But I want to finish, because Martin told me I wasn't to speak for very long, which I won't. I started off today in Reston, and you'll always think, where's Reston? Reston's a tiny little village over near Eyemouth. And what was the occasion today is we were opening a railway station, and there were trains there. And why is that so important to Reston? Because like what you're doing today, that's an innovation for that little community. It's now got a train station on one of the busiest passenger lines in the whole of the UK, the East Coast Main Line. And what will that do for the community? It's already inspired a number of inward investors, which Martin's working with, to look at that part of the world now, because it can come there more easily. It will allow tourism to go, it will allow the hospitality trade to be in. And that's allowed the whole community to become much more innovative than they ever were. So it's those little things, and that's part of what we do, is to do that. Bless them, the government invested £20 million in what was a very nice change station, I have to tell you, for £20 million. It is. But it was there was about 200 people there in this tiny community today. just talking about where they wanted to go now in the future because they've got a train station. And I think that's what we're trying to do. Where we want to go in the future now in this area is here, but across all that we do across the south of Scotland now. And one of that, and yes, people say, well, you know, we're here to help, but we are. And I've got a massive amount of intellect that works for me, this man being one of them, that helps people to do that and to think differently and to look at where they want to go. And I'm always inspired when I've lived here, down here now for a long time, about 32, 33 years. And I've just been inspired by all the people I meet over the years that come in here, do great things. Some of them go away, some of them come back again. And we just need now to put all the infrastructure in place around housing and transport that we need to do to get us to net zero. And one of the biggest challenges we have is how we take our, in some cases, ageing housing population into the new world. And that was a big challenge that Martin and his team are doing. So I don't want to say any more, other than I'm just delighted to be here today. And as I say, it's the sale that built this with the new sale that will lead into the future. So thank you.
So, could I ask Chris, Graham and Di to come and join us up here, please? And Rob. Do we have enough chairs? Yes, we do. So, folks, we have a roving mic. There it is, as illustrated by my wife. I should just point out, spoiler alert. This was Bring Your Wife to Work Day. Just David, you know, I think there was few. Di, I think your husband's here, isn't it? Bring your husband. Bring your husband to work day. Right, okay. So, or bring your partner, whatever you fancy. So, over to you, room people. What questions do you have for our esteemed panel? We have one there. So, David first and then the gentleman there. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you say who you are as well, that would be great, so people can hear you.
Good afternoon, David Thompson from Annandale Distillery and various other places, and Dumfries. I'm going to say something very quickly and then I'll ask the question. Wind back 150, 160 years, all shipping was by sail. Back in these days, there were some very fast ships, Formula One ships, if you like, called clippers. Okay, we all know about Cutty Sark, built in Dunbarton, I think. Thermopylae, built, I think, in Aberdeen. But there was a third one called Elizabeth Nicholson, built in Annan. There you go. So south of Scotland. And in fact, there were 9 clipper ships built in the south of Scotland. So sail-driven shipping's returning, thank goodness. Question really is, how does it work?
There's a microphone for you if you want to answer the question. Whoever wants to take any answer, how does it work, Di?
It works in pretty much the same way as the other sales systems worked. I mean, one of the things that we've thought about is that the Cutty Sark and her ilk were interrupted by the age of fossils. And there was a lot of learning and a lot of development that just got stagnated at that point. And so as we've thought about what's modern shipping looking like and what do we need to do to reduce the emissions from it, in thinking about sales, we're starting to unlock a huge amount of untapped knowledge that just didn't evolve around I mean, I'll share with you a very quick story about my favourite ship in the world. Is called the Flying Cloud. And she was built in response to the gold rush. And she sailed from New York to San Francisco taking materials to the gold rush. And she broke the world speed sailing record, and I can't remember what year it was, 1890 something or other. And it was not broken for another 109 years. And so there's that untapped knowledge. And I would also mention that it was navigated by a woman who was called Eleanor Creasy and is a bit of a hero of mine. But so I think that there's the untapped knowledge. But also, as we've been talking about, you know, sail 2.0, what we've learned from America's Cup, what we've learned from sailing open 60s around the world is it's just an extraordinary capability. If anyone has windsurfed or sailed on a small dinghy and just got that wind, then you kind of go, God, this is amazing that you can move this quickly. So we're harnessing the wind. I mean, it's straightforward. There's a wing technology. I'll defer to an aerodynamicist in a minute. But you know, it's not rocket science, but it is rocket science because we're enabling it with digital technology.
And I think there was a
Do you want
gentleman
to say
first.
something about?
Sorry. Just grab the mic, Rob. Thank you.
I would add a nerdy point that when trying to design a very efficient ship, we discovered that the peak of hydrodynamic efficiency was around about 1983. And then that was during an oil crisis. And when fuel got cheap again, they got lazy and it just got better to push big bricks through the water because the fuel was cheap. So some of it isn't new, innovative rocket science. It's old, innovative rocket science that we just forgot.
Okay, I'm minded of time, so there's a gentleman there, and then this lady here, and after that will be one more, I think, and then we'll have something. Over to you, sir.
Hi, yeah, thanks for that. And I don't know how you held it together there, because I found that very emotional. My name's Richard Hickson. I'm a consultant in critical care medicine, so I'm from healthcare, another global industry. And I, as a critical care doctor, I lived through the COVID pandemic working on a critical care unit. And we know there are going to be more pandemics with climate change. We know there's going to be an awful lot of harm. I then lived through that little heat wave that we had, and we saw some harm there, and we know that's just going to get greater. But all our stuff comes in on container ships. So human health care, in providing care, inadvertently causes harm elsewhere through heavy fuel oils, marine mammal collisions, etc. So when I go back to NHS England with my healthcare ocean hat on, and they're going to say to me, okay, so when can we ship in our goods into the UK on a container ship with fast rigs? And when can we actually make that a requirement for our 80,000 suppliers? Because actually that should be entry level to supply to the NHS. And it doesn't have to be too accurate, just closest month and year, please.
So, of course, we're retrofitting our wings onto ships which have available deck space, and that is one of the things that container ships don't have. However, there is an organisation called Zephyr and Bose who are organising or optimising containers to use wing sails on them. I think that the thing that we need to do is we need to start the journey. Until we start, we can't learn how to do it. So we've kind of limited our vision to the almost 40,000 ships that are available to install wind, bulkers and tankers. But you know, once we start, so many of you know that my background was in, I started in mobile phones, and when I first launched the mobile phone, it was attached to something like a car battery, and it was the height of technological advancement. And then, you know, we advanced to the brick thing. And you know, part of my job was to go out to industry and say, you know, here's the thing, do you want it? And they went, oh, I don't want one of them. Why would I ever want one of them? But once we built it and they came. And that's really what we're doing here. We're going to put this on every single ship that we can. Rob has no bounds to his ability to think about how the container ships, we'll just do that as well. So I would give you a date of 2027.
Someone write this down.
And we'll do it in February.
Thank you. This lady at the front, and then one more question. We've got three hands, so we'll figure it out. As long as they're very fast questions and very fast answers.
Yeah, very, very fast. Jennifer Tobin. My business is in putting safety systems onto the deep sea merchant fleet, and I do hold a certificate of competency as Master Mariner. My question to you is, what did you think of Flettner?
Who wants that one?
As an aerodynamicist, I really don't like Flettner rotors. It's kind of cheap. But the way it makes sense is you create a huge force, and some of the time it's going in the direction you want. You're at the mercy. The direction of the force from your wind propulsion device is completely decided by the wind. That there is no choice on your side, which you get away with because you spin the thing faster and you create a bigger and bigger force. So even if it's kind of off to the side, it might still be a little bit of it pushing you forwards, but then your ship's going sideways, which is very inefficient. So, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll maybe pick up these chats in the break, but I think at the moment, a very quick question from Karen, from Daniel, and the gentleman behind Karen, and then we'll really need to be fast. So Karen first, please. Karen.
I actually loved listening to that, thank you. Sorry, my name's Karen Riddick. I've got an e-commerce company and we do a lot of importing and exporting, which is now becoming almost economically unviable given the cost of shipping. So I'm just very inspired at the whole sort of concept of this. I'm quite interested in, where do you see it sort of integrating with other transport? So obviously container shipping is how we're all moving things. But, there's so much road and rail transport to get things to port. And I'm interested in, do you see the sails being able to be used on much smaller ships that could actually be getting further afield? We've only got, 3 or 4 main ports that tend to get served, but actually there's so many places that goods could be brought into which avoids this use for road and rail transport as well. So I'm interested in just that kind of wider integration there as well.
Yeah, and that's a really good systems question. I mean, we're looking at how we're bringing in all this stuff from the Far East and so therefore we need massive container ships. If we're starting to do more nearshoring, if we're starting to do more local manufacture, then we need a different shipping system. And the smaller the ship, the more proportion of power you can get from the wind. So if we have a larger number of ships, but they're getting more free energy, then we can, it's a fundamental, it's not I can't even I'm not giving you a date on that one, but I think you will be able to affect a modal shift by moving the whole of the kind of global supply chain into a different configuration over time, and I think that's happening now.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Shorter questions and faster answers. So I'm really, really conscious that we're against the clock here. So the gentleman quickly behind, in fact, Stuart, you're nearby. So Stuart,
okay, Stuart Hazeldine.
And then yourself, sir. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, Stuart Hazeldine, University of Edinburgh. So where, when, and how can you make these at scale in Scotland by 2027?
South of Scotland. Sorry.
Of course, anywhere in Scotland will do, but south is best.
Yes, agreed.
I think it's fair to say we're not going to be making them all here and expecting ships to come up the Clyde to be retrofitted. We will be exporting knowledge, and we will use a pattern that's been used in the development of wind turbines, the knowledge of design by our good friends at Malin, and then we will export that and manufacture locally in the communities and the regions of the world where we'll be able to fit the ships more easily. So there's a kind of global supply chain of the system that we will be developing over this 3-year project.
Brilliant, great answer. Fast question. The gentleman behind you, Stuart.
I'm afraid this is a geek's question. How close to the wind do you get effective power out of your sails?
Oh, Sam, are you on that one?
Sam? Quick answers.
I'll take that geeky one then. Our current optimization plan is that we're looking at wind angles aft of the beam, which we can achieve through efficient routing of ships. We race yachts around the world downwind most of the time.
It's a downwind?
Generally.
I've just had a great idea. Why don't we put you two in the geek corner when we go through the room, and you can have a good old chat, and then we can maybe tweet what the answer is, and would that be okay? Because I can sense this is going to go quite a long answer, this one.
Geek corner is what we're here for.
Geek corner is great. I sometimes go into geek corners. The very last question to the youngest and newest member of South of Scotland Enterprise, which is Daniel, just joined the Net Zero team as an intern. If we can get a microphone to Daniel here, just there, thank you. Then after that, I'm going to invite David. So, Daniel.
Thanks, Martin. So I'm conscious for time, so I'll make it quick. So I've just kind of looked around, and I'd probably say I'm the youngest in the room. I'm 22. Oh, we get someone younger. So I'm 22. I've just graduated from uni doing mechanical engineering with aeronautics, and I've joined the Net Zero team at SOCI for the summer. I wouldn't say I'm personally scared by the climate challenge for a reason. I think my generation, we want to solve the problem, and we're not scared of it. We want to embrace it. We're optimistic of the kind of positive change we can make, but we are kind of frustrated that previous generations have kind of ran away from the challenges and the problems from climate change. So my question to the panel, probably a good one to finish, is Why do you think previous generations have ran away from the problems of climate change? And Di said in her speech, this is the greatest race that she's been involved in, or the greatest race that we're involved in as a generation, or humans. And what does my generation need to do to win this race?
Wow. Rob, we'll start with you, but a very quick answer along all of the panel, and then we'll stop at that.
I'm not sure of the reason other than it was easy to avoid. Oil was cheap and everybody loved it. It actually did a lot of good for humanity, but now we realize we shouldn't set fire to it. We should use it to make useful things. As of what the future can bring is open-mindedness and creativity, the enthusiasm to do things differently and to try new things, and not just do things the way they've always been done.
Graham, would you add to that?
Nothing very insightful. Politics, political dynamics. So what's the hope for the future? Rob put his finger on it earlier. Agency. Don't wait for the policy. Policy will follow practice.
Russell?
Yeah, I guess it's what drives most things in the world for the last 5 years. It's 24/7 international media. And I think the access we all have now to what's going on anywhere in the world at any time has made us aware of what we can do, because you don't see it sometimes here.
We'll pass to Chris first, and then Di, you can finish.
Yeah, I think the climate change emergency has been here for a long time, but it's only been a certain section of society who's actually been focusing on it. Until people's houses start burning down and tempests are washing countries into the sea, it's not really been a real thing. So yeah, in the last 10 years, it's become a real thing and everyone's engaged in it, but it's only become this climate crisis in really, really recent years in mainstream, I think. So we've not been running away from it. We've just not really recognized it, I think.
So Di, now that we recognise it, what we're going to do?
I think we're doing it. I think we're doing it here, and people like you are doing it with us. And there's a multiplier effect. The more we do, the more we achieve. And I think once you've kind of laid down the gauntlet, I mean, one of the experiences we've had in racing, one of the experiences we've had in cellular telephones is, you put something out there and everyone else goes, oh, is that it? Well, we can do better than that. And once you do that, once you start that arms race, forgive the expression, but once you've started that competitive approach, then I think it will accelerate. And I'm really inspired by young people. I love to work with young people because they really just don't let us get away with it. And I think it's great. So, yeah. Go you.
Just very briefly, conscious of the time. We've got a little, so you normally toast a ship and you would smash a bottle, but we're not going to do that. So we're going to do something a bit different, something a bit interesting. But before we do, I like to do the kind of drama. I'd like to ask Sam to come up here for a moment, because Di is going to tell us something, aren't you, about this?
So breaking news.
Breaking news.
This 24-hour breaking news thing. This week, our design team has been awarded by Lloyd's Register the first stage of its approval in principle, which is a really significant move. The design team have worked extraordinarily hard over the last 3 months. We started with a few sketches from a project that we did in 2018 and 19, and they have transformed that into real design drawings with all of the safety aspects being examined in detail by Lloyd's Register, and we have been awarded this week approval in principle. The Lloyd's so this is what kind of real life stuff is.
Drama.
The Lloyd's Register boys who were coming up to make the presentation, to do the photo shoot, unfortunately couldn't get the train to work. So we're improvising here, and Martin is now going to make the award to Sam for approval in principle.
You want to say something, Sam, briefly?
Briefly. Where do we start? Just on behalf of there's a lot of people working behind the scenes, other than the collection of the panel here. I'll name check some people: Tom and Rob Humphries at Humphries Yacht Design, Chris Mitchell at AES in New Zealand, who's doing all of our structural engineering, and Simon Wally at Argo Engineering, also in Hythe in Hampshire. Over the last 3 months, there has been a power of work done to get to a point where we have a solution, design solution that has satisfied the Lloyd's Register loads requirements, which is a huge achievement and a good step upon the way to deliver the fast rig by February next year.
Fantastic. Well done. My last task of the day is I'm looking at my new best friend, Professor David Thompson, and Teresa. David's going to come up and speak very briefly about the amazing mission and the vision you're on. Some of us were reading it out earlier on your Annandale distillery, and you can maybe make the reference to the sail, because I'm sure lots of people have noticed the sailing ship and trying to make a connection, wondering what's going on. And then after that, I'd like to invite you all to go out that door there. There are 2 doors. It's like in true aircraft that way somewhere, and there's some nice reception drinks for you all. So, Professor Thompson.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks everyone for great presentations. I still want to know how it works, by the way, but we'll come to that. I'm a bit of a geek, sorry. But, you know, since working with Sosia and particularly with Martin, it's really challenged us as a business as to, you know, what can we do? You know, what can we do to make things better? What can we do to make things different? What can we do to answer your question about, you know, as old jocks, you know, we didn't know there was a problem. We really didn't. And we haven't been hiding from it, but we just didn't appreciate it. But now we've got to do something. We've got to do it fast. There was something on Radio 4 this morning. I think it was Radio 4. It might be in the World Service when I was driving up here. And it was talking about how there are tipping points when it comes to the environment and climate change. And that if we go to successive tipping points, all of this is going to speed up. So we need to speed up as well. But if you just come back to a sort of relatively simple business like a distillery, the Annandale Distillery, what can we do? Well, there's a lot of very obvious things that we can do. We burn gas to heat steam, to create steam for making whiskey. Can we do something else? Can we use photovoltaic electricity to preheat water? Can we use photovoltaic electricity to create hydrogen that we can burn in our boiler? So these are the sorts of questions that we're asking ourselves. But actually, there's one that intrigues me even more than that, and it's the simplest one of the lot, actually, and it's the middle one in our poster there, which is everything local. And you know, one of the things that's happened over the last 100 and something years is globalization. You know, and we only need these great big ships that burn lots and lots of bunkering fuel, because we're bringing things from the far ends of the world, from China, from India and so forth, from the United States, we're bringing them here. But if we didn't have to bring them here, or didn't have to bring them so far, then we'd use less fuel, and it makes total sense. So our maxim at Annandale Distillery in the Globe and at Comlongan, which are our local businesses here, is try and do everything local. So we're going to endeavour, well, we've done 2 things already. We're about to open our own bottling hall, which means we don't have to transport our whiskey anywhere to have it bottled. It can be done on site. We've opened a brand new bonded warehouse, which means we don't have to send our whiskey away to mature. It's all matured on site. It has to travel. It must be at least 20 yards, which is, you know, and uses virtually no fuel. So these are things we've done already. The things that we want to do are we want to grow all of our barley locally. We want to have a malting facility locally. I reckon we probably have about something like 10,000 road miles in 1 year just transporting malted barley around. I'd like that to be a couple of 100 miles, and it's possible just by doing something locally. So, you know, I'm not in any way trying to diminish what's being achieved by what Di and company are trying to do with shipping, because that has to happen. But one of the ways around it is to not bring things in from the other side of the world, not from the other part of the European Union, but just to do it nice and locally. The third initiative that we're doing is just, we have waste products. Let's extract what we can from them in the way of energy, in the way of nutrients, and just use it all more efficiently. And it's just, to your point again, just thinking about it, just realising there is a problem, grasping these relatively simple things and doing them as efficiently and as effectively as we can. And that's, in a sense, my promise to you. That's what we're going to try and do now. So there you are. And that's Annandale Distillery's, I suppose, small contribution, but hopefully if everyone, other small businesses try and do that, then they'll make you know, money a mickle, max a muckle, as they say in Scots. The final thing I'd like to say is that we've been asked to create a green cocktail. And I don't mean colour. I mean local. So I think we've got it in the next room. Is that right, guys? So the guys from, we've got Oliver Carolan from the Globe Inn. He's our bar supervisor at the Globe Inn, and he does a mean cocktail, I got to tell you. and of course, he uses local whiskey. Why wouldn't he? And Lee Mead from Annandale Distillery in the Globe as well. So if you would like to go through there, and we can toast the success of all of you, and congratulations, particularly on that getting that initiative from Lloyd's. I think that's fabulous, but I still want to know how it works.
One tiny last thing, and it would be derelict of not to do it, is to thank you all and our online delegates for being here and participating so actively. Thank you to my amazing panel of speakers. I think special thanks there. Thanks to David and Teresa and the distillery, and thanks to my wife, who's up the back there, who will kill me later for saying this, but I can't miss the opportunity to thank her for being behind the scenes, organising everything and everyone, including the shirts. So there's been so much happening in the background, and it's been a fantastic day, and thank you all. Let's go and have some cocktails. Mocktails, is the mocktails or cocktails? Both. Let's go and have both. Thank you so much, everyone.
Saw the wandering eye inside my heart, shouts and battle cries from every part. I can see those tears, everyone is true. When the dawn appears, I'll go right through. In a small dark room where I will wait, face to face I find, I contemplate. Even though a man is made of clay, everything can change that one fine day. Then before my eyes is standing still, I beheld it there, a city on a hill. I complete my tasks one by one. I remove my masks when I am done. Then a peace of mind fell over me. In these troubled times, we still can see. We can use the stars to guide the way. It is not that far, that one fine day. One fine day. One fine day. Oh. I